I have to say it was a pretty disappointing G20 overall. And that's because we have to think of the stakes going on right now. The virus raging, economies in trouble, and there was so much more this G20 could do. And we only have to think back in history to 2008, the first Leaders Summit, which was held 2 weeks after a presidential election in the US at the onset of the global financial crisis. And there and in the following months, the leaders to do everything in their power for the global recovery. And I don't think we saw that kind of coordinated message out of this G20. We heard good things, as was outlined, important things on debt relief, on the COVID vaccine, but I don't think we saw that unified global response that so many people are looking for. And that to me makes it a disappointing G20.
Josh, it's Hadley in New York. I mean, this is a big deal for Saudi Arabia. They really wanted to get this right, to pull this one off. Obviously, with a global pandemic, they made things very, very difficult, especially with regards to having to hold virtual meetings across so many different files. One of the things, though, that I took away from this, I had the chance to interview the Saudi foreign minister yesterday, and I asked him about the Iran file and the possibility of resurrecting a JCPOA, and he suggested to me that what the Saudis were looking for was really just a place at the negotiating table next time around with whatever the Biden administration decides to do there. You see that as progress, no?
I agree, that's progress, and I think there were progress on a series of fronts. Climate, there was better language in the communique than before. We talked about debt relief, and the Iran issue was raised. Of course, a lot of this is just on hold. You saw this even when President Trump did speak in his session. Some of the leaders weren't completely focused because they're looking forward to 2021 and thinking, what is a Biden administration going to do? So if President Trump is attacking the WHO or the Paris Climate Accords, that doesn't have the same resonance as it might have a year ago. But I think what we saw out of the G20, and you pointed this out, Hadley, there are a series of important national and bilateral responses. But again, not this global response. And the debt relief is actually a good example because they extended it to June 2021, which is important and needed. But a 6-month time horizon is just not enough. And they noted that we'll have to revisit this in April. And that's why I think we just need a little more of this long-term thinking from the G20. And again, I think back to 2008 and 2009 and that sort of global commitment, stimulus, coordinated stimulus, and what that meant, not just for the countries, but for the private sector hearing that message. So while there was important gains made, I still think it wasn't enough.